Good morning, KIP 1 primary, second, and third graders. This is Mr. Jennings. This is your science class for today. Missed you guys. Hope you guys are doing well. This Today will be lesson 6. And in this lesson, we will be using observable data to describe which traits and there in our class will have the most and least variation. So obviously we don't have our full class here, but we're going to be able to see a couple of people from our school today in picture and just make some observable descriptions about the traits that we see. Our big question is also, how are organisms the same and how are organisms different? So we're seeing how all organisms are the same and how are they different. So we can see different variations, which means differences between different organisms. So even though they're the same species, they have different traits that make them who they are or make that animal or living thing what it is. So we're going to start with our warm up. So Donovan was debating with debating with her classmates about whether or not humans are considered a species. Sorry, it says he and she. I made a mistake. Forgive me. So Donovan will be a boy. We'll start over. Donovan was debating whether his classmates about whether or not humans are considered a species. He says that since so many people look different, that they are not all the same species. Do you agree with Donovan? Why or why not? So I want you to read this to yourself again, and I'll read it again. And after I read it, you guys can talk with the person next to you or think about it with yourself if no one is next to you about this question. I'll read it one more time. Donovan was debating with his class about whether or not humans are considered a species. He says that since so many people look different, that they are not all the same species. Do you agree with Donovan? Why or why not? Okay, cool. If you need more time, just pause the video and you'll be able to keep on talking. Um, if not, you just press play. We'll keep on moving. So Donovan was debating with his class about us being the same species. We all learned that humans are the species that we are. Now, there might be different races inside of our species. So people's different race can be different colors and different traits, but also but in between those different races, we also see that there's different traits in between that. For example, Mr. Salih and Mr. Jennings, we are both African American. That is our race. However, the species, we're still human. We're human just like every person in the world. But between me, Mr. Salih and Mr. Jennings has a larger beard. Mr. Salih is taller, and I am shorter. So we have different traits in between the race that we are and the species that we are. So we're all one species, and that's human. The one species that we are all human. Yeah. So it doesn't matter what you look like. If you are a person, you are a human being, which means that you're a part of our species. So today we're going to figure out what sort of variation exists amongst different, it says students in the classroom, but a couple of different people in our school, and what traits have the most variation and the least. So we're going to be seeing some different things and figuring out the least variation and the most variation. So what are some traits that vary from one person to the next? So there's different traits that we can see that are observable. These traits that we can see are observable can be like hair color, fingernails, eye color. Just one example, we're in school, we'll see who can snap and who cannot snap. That's a trait that we're all able to do, or broken bones, or not broken bones. So some people might have broken bones or have broken a bone before, or some people have never broken a bone before in their life. Or hair texture, so how your hair feels, or it could be like longer or shorter. These are different variations that we can see in between different living things or organisms. So right here, you can write down your trait that you have for each of these 6 categories. So these 6 categories, you can pause the video here and see what can you say about the different colors. So Mr. Jennings, for example, my hair color is brown. My fingernails are like, they're not super long, but they're a little long. My eye color, you can see, is brown. I can snap. I've never broken a bone, but I've fractured a bone, and my hair is kind of like curly and coarse. So it's kind of, especially now because we haven't been to the barbershop or anything, but at least we love our natural selves. So love your natural self. So these are the things that Mr. Jennings are different traits that I see within myself. So we have two guests here, and these guests will be a part of our of our observation. So you'll use me, Mr. Jennings, and we have two other people that we're going to look at. These two other people, two friends of ours. This is Mr. Bell, and then we have Logan. So you'll use Mr. Jennings. My picture here, I'll make it larger. I'll move them over some. Cool. We have three people. Three people here, and we're going to be seeing what observable traits that we see between them. So this is just a picture, and we're going to see what we can find out. So we have our different things here, so I'm going to write them here. I'm going to put hair color, fingernails, eye color, bottom of that I'm going to put, not going to put can snap because we're not going to be able to see, and broken bone or not, we don't know, and hair texture. Hair texture. So when it says texture, that means like what does it feel like? Hair texture, and we can add some more in there as we go along. So let me pull up back my two friends here. All right, cool. So hair color, Mr. Jennings, Mr. Bell, and Logan, we all have the same hair color. Our hair colors are brown, so that's a similarity that we all have. So I'm gonna put brown hair, and I'll put Mr. Bell, Logan, Mr. Jennings. We all have the same hair color, so that's a similarity that we all have. Fingernails. So I have, as you see, longer fingernails. So longs, I'll put longs and short. So Mr. Jennings has longer fingernails, as you can see here. Now, although we can't see Mr. Bell's fingernails or Logan's in this picture, I know Mr. Bell's fingernails are super, super short. It looks like he bites on them a lot. So I'm going to put Mr. Jennings, I'll just put Mr. J, long, Mr. Bell, short. So Mr. Jennings has really nice, cool nails, and Mr. Bell has okay nails too, I guess, but they're short. Then eye color. All three of us all have a brown eye color. I can zoom in on these two eyes, even though Mr. Bell's eyes are pretty shut. We all have the same eye color if you look at them. We don't see like a blue or red or green or yellow. So I'll put eye color brown. I'll put Mr. J, Mr. Bell, Logan. All have brown eye colors. Now, if you look to someone else, let me think, like Miss Weldon. If I put her over here, I think maybe she has blue eyes. I'm not really sure, but I will put Miss Weldon under blue. So Miss Weldon has a different color, eye color than Mr. Bell, Mr. Logan. Logan and Mr. Jennings. So although we all are human, Miss Weldon, Mr. Jennings, Logan, and Mr. Bell, we can see variations between our eye color and Miss Weldon's eye color. So we can see those variations with different people. Hair texture. Now, all of our hair texture is about the same. Well, Mr. Bell's is probably lower hair, so it's probably like real smooth. So I'll put low, smooth, and that'll be Bell. And from this picture, Logan and Mr. Dennis have like a curlier hair. So I'll put curly, Jay, and Logan. So Mr. Bell has like a fine, his hair like real like flat. Yeah, he has a real fine haircut, and his hair is lower, while Mr. Jennings and Logan's haircut more hair, and it's a curlier hair. So we can see that even although we have a lot of similarities, Logan, Mr. Jennings, and Mr. Bell, like brown hair and brown eyes, we have different hair. Me, Logan, and myself have a different hair texture than Mr. Bell. Now, there are other things that you might see different between Mr. Jennings, Logan, and Mr. Bell. I want you guys to think of some different variations. So something is different between either one of us, two of us, or all of us. What's something that you see different? And you can tell a friend starting now. Cool. You should have your thing. Now I have mine. So, for example, Mr. Jennings and Mr. Bell, we both have a beard. So I can put Mr. Jennings, Mr. Bell, both have a beard. And although Logan may get a beard someday, right now he does not. So Logan has no beard. So we see that's different or variation from what Mr. Jennings and Mr. Bell has. So we can already see differences and similarities between the three of us or the two of us or how we are different, although we can still have similar things. We can also say um, our height. So Mr. Jennings is the tallest, Mr. Bell is the second tallest, and Logan is the third tallest. Now Logan may get as he get older, he's going to get taller than Mr. Bell and Mr. Jennings. But right now, Logan is the shortest. Then Mr. Jennings is then Mr. Bell is the second shortest, and Mr. Jennings is the tallest. So although we have similarities, we also see that we all have differences as well. So great. We're going to stop here on this and move on back to our PowerPoint. Got to zoom in here and just you guys can see our beautiful art pictures in the background. So now your turn. I want you to write down your 6 traits that you have for each 6 categories. And if you guys want to, you guys can email them to Mr. Jennings and I'll be able to add you to our video as well next time. You can put down these things, the hair color, your fingernails, whether you have some or none, your eye color, if you can or can't snap. Tell us if you have ever broken a bone or not, or hair texture. You can also send videos, and Mr. Jennings can also upload those videos, and we can see how you guys added these different things. So you can have those 6 different things, either put a video or send me an email letting me know those 6 different categories, and I can add you to our next video. So which variations of traits are most common? So we can see different things with different living organisms, and today we're going to be looking at a specific organism, and we're going to look at, a couple of bears. So looking at these different bears, we have our title here, bears. We're going to be looking to see which ones are brown, white, long nails, short nails. Super simple. So from these bears, as I zoom in, I can see that their nails are super long. So, first, before we go to nails, forgive me, I'm going to go to brown. So right here, I can see one brown bear that lives in the tropical forest. I'll just put a tally there. We see black bear, dark brown bear. I'll put that with that one as well. 2 dark brown bears, and then no more. Okay, so we have 2 bears that have these same colors, but we have 4 bears that are white or white gray, and 2 bears that are black or black and tan. So although they're all bears, we see that they have different traits or variation of traits, with being their color of their fur, which is black or brown or whitish gray. We can see how many white bears we have. So although some of the bears look white, they're not. See this one, the first one that says 2, it's whitish gray. The one that says number 10 is white. So we have 1 white bear there. We have number 14. It's a white bear, a white polar bear, sorry. And then we have number 18, which is also a white polar bear. So even though the one of them is a whitish grayish color, it's still a polar bear. So or a bear. So we see that they have different variations, even though some of those things still look similar. And the same thing with the black and brown bears. We can see that some of them have different variations going out. I also can see from the black and brown bears that the two bears at the top have those longer fingernails. So I'll put two here. We can't see this polar bear's or this bear, sorry, fingernail. So I'm not going to add anything. Also, we can't see from this one. And then we have these ones. They have shorter fingernails because I don't see any in the picture. So we're going to not add those. And we're going to add them to shorter nails. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 that have shorter nails. And that's because polar bears usually live in the Arctic or where it is cold and there's not that many trees. So they don't climb trees, while these other bears have longer nails or longer fingernails because they do climb trees. We can also see different variations inside of weight. We can see different variations on their noses, that like because these bears have like a brownish or tannish nose, while the other bears have a blackish nose. So there's different variations and similarities to each species of organisms. So just like us, when we see those different variations with Mr. Bell, Mr. Jennings, and Logan, the bears, although they're all bears, we see different races of bears, and we see that they have different traits that make them the type of bear that they are. So we're going to stop here for today. We're going to be able to share out those different variation traits that you guys have wrote down because of this class, and you guys can send them to Mr. Jennings or email them to me, and I can put some of those videos on our next video lesson so we can learn something new about you guys. But this lesson, we learned that using the data of the models of the variations we have, we can identify similarities and differences in humans. So we've seen similar things with those bears and with Mr. Jennings, Logan, and Mr. Bell, but we also see differences with those bears and differences with Mr. Jennings, Mr. Bell, and Logan. So variations matter because they tell us the difference of different organisms and also similarities. So see you guys next time. Love you. Stay safe. And I can't wait to see you guys' videos.